Hi guys, here's Paula, the crazy ozone lady. So sorry for the hiccup because of the no sound previously. So this time around with sound, right? Mic is on. I see here I'm in the green zone. Okay, awesome. All right, so oh my god. Okay, so I was talking and no one could hear me. All right, so before we start, let me take the opportunity to subscribe to my newsletter, thepowerofozone.com/news. Please do so to protect ourselves, to protect the ozone community, the home ozone community from big tech censorship, because I'm sure many of you have heard the news that basically Twitter, Facebook, and all the other social media companies have cancelled Donald Trump and his accounts. So basically it's like insanity has been unleashed. I mean, they are basically, it's things are happening which are not, can't be explained rationally anymore. I mean, why would a company, a private company, risk losing the majority or at least half of his users? So this does not make any sense. So it's like we're in the realm of complete insanity. So please subscribe to my newsletter before I get cancelled as well, and my social media accounts. And also check out the description below the video. There are also links to alternative websites and also to alternative video hosting services like Odyssey. Odyssey is really cool, so you can watch all my YouTube videos also on Odyssey. So yeah, subscribe to my newsletter. Let's protect ourselves from those absolute, insane techno tyrants who just wants us to conform to one type of thinking. This is just absolute craziness. All right, so let's begin with the theme, with the topic of this video. I prepared here an overview of what we will cover. So, okay, let's begin with what is industrial oxygen. So industrial oxygen comes in industrial or CGA 540 tanks. You see, so this is the valve of an industrial oxygen. This is a cute little tank that you can buy from PromoLife, and this is a CGA valve. So, and this is, you see, to compare it with a medical CGA 870 valve that looks like this. Okay, so you see the difference. So already when you look at an oxygen tank, you can tell whether it's medical oxygen or some other type of oxygen in many cases, but it's a little more nuanced, a little more complicated, but I will get into this later. So what is industrial oxygen and how pure is it and how does it compare to medical oxygen? Well, until recently, it was assumed that really there was not much difference in the purity of between industrial and medical oxygen tank oxygen. It was assumed that both had a purity of at least 99%, but this has been recently put into question, and there have been voices of people who actually work in the industry and who handle and fill the tanks, and they say that this is not necessarily so. And there was also one video by Dr. Rowan where he also mentioned that the purity of industrial tanks may actually be lower than 99%. Now, this is, for most people, this is not really relevant. So if you're doing any type of, insufflations, non-invasive treatments which do not include needles, then this is not pertinent to you. But still, it may be interesting to know that. So basically, what we've been told is that so in order to fill an industrial oxygen tank with oxygen, you don't need to empty it completely of the gas that was in there before. And so when a tank is empty, then there will be air in it, and air is 80% nitrogen. So before you fill an industrial oxygen tank, you don't need to suck out the the air out of it. So it's possible that there will be a tiny percentage, between 3 and 5% maybe, in there that is not oxygen. Okay, so this is one thing. And this seems to have been also confirmed by at least one person in the home ozone community. So there's a member of our Facebook group, the Ozone group, and he actually went ahead and he had his oxygen tanks tested. So he bought, I believe it was 2 different analyzers, and he tested both his industrial and his medical tank. And so the industrial tank, it showed on the analyzer and showed that the content of the tank was around, I believe, either 95 or 96. I believe it was 96% pure oxygen. So again, if you're not a doctor performing IVs, then this is, really irrelevant. But point is that it's not necessarily true that the purity of the oxygen between industrial and medical is exactly the same. This does not appear to be the case, or in some cases, we don't know if it in all cases, probably not, but in some cases this may be the case. Okay, number 2. So what is the difference between industrial and medical oxygen? So number 1, as I said, is the purity. So the content of industrial oxygen can be maybe in some cases a little less than medical oxygen, because what we're hearing is that they seem to take much greater care when they fill medical oxygen tanks. So they first vacuum them out and only then fill them with oxygen. So this is one thing. The other is also that there's a chain of custody with medical oxygen tanks, which does not exist with industrial tanks. So chain of custody is that basically you can tell exactly when that medical oxygen tank, who handled it and how, and what happened next. So this is necessary that in case some accident happens, so let's say a patient was treated with the oxygen and then some accident occurs, the person develops some pulmonary emergency or some other side effects that can be explained, then they need to be able to tell, okay, is it possible that maybe the oxygen tank was responsible for it, and maybe that an accident occurred instead of oxygen and filled something else. So they have to be able to trace back exactly what happened with the tank and who handled it, to be able to tell who is responsible for or whatever happened. So this chain of custody does not exist with industrial tanks. Okay, let's see, there's so when it comes to oxygen, so this is the difference. But okay, another thing to know, this is not necessarily here in my notes, is that so as I said, so this valve here, this is a so-called industrial or CGA 540 valve. But also medical oxygen tanks can have this valve. So when you go, for example, to an ozone doctor or an ozone dentist, doctors, they tend to have not such small tanks, but they're like big, they're tall and big, like humans nearly, so they're really big, and those tanks, they contain medical oxygen, but they have an industrial valve on them. So the point is that you cannot look at an oxygen tank and then be able to say immediately whether it's industrial or medical, because even medical oxygen can be filled into tanks with industrial valves. So this is one thing. Okay, I was like, okay, are there any problems with the sound? Because my dad is telling me here that there is someone talking in Arabic at the same time. I cannot hear anyone talking in Arabic. So if there is some problem with the sound, guys, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna continue. Okay, so where was I? Right, so you cannot tell by the look of the tank whether it contains medical oxygen or not. Also, there's another type of oxygen which is even purer than medical oxygen. This is so-called scientific grade ultra high purity oxygen. Sound is fine. Okay, good. And that oxygen, ultra high purity scientific grade oxygen comes also in industrial tanks. So it also has a CGA 540 valve, but it is even purer than medical oxygen. So it is at 99.994% pure. And you don't need a prescription, you don't need a license, nothing. It is more expensive than regular industrial oxygen, so this is another point to show that the type of oxygen tank that you're looking at does not automatically tell you the purity of the content of the tank. All right, now next point: how to secure a tank. So how to secure a tank? Ideally you want to have something like this, namely a card. And now let me switch over here to Amazon. Those bastards. Either get a card like this. Another solution is to, for example, use velcro straps and fixate the tank to a sturdy table, to the leg of a sturdy table, or some people, they use also chains or some type of like a contraption that basically will fixate the tank and will make sure that that no one can fall over, because what you want to do when you're dealing with a tank, you basically want to prevent that somebody can run over it and topple over it, and then that the valve could get damaged and then basically be purged out of the tank in a violent fashion. So it's definitely a good idea to somehow fixate the tank. Okay, and I think card is one of the best ways. Another topic that needs to be covered. So how to otherwise handle the tank. So it's just like the same as with medical tank or other tanks, or really any type of gas that is under pressure in a bottle, is that you want to keep it away from heat sources. So you don't want to leave your tank close to your heater, close to your oven or stove. You don't want to leave it out on and exposed to the sun, because what could happen is that the heat will make the gas expand, and then there can be some leakage or some accident could be happening. So keep it away from any heat sources, number one. Number two, also keep it away from oil sources. And also, if you have oily hands, oily fingers, do not handle a tank in that case. Sorry guys, I'm getting here some mixed messages from my computer, but I think everything seems to be fine. All right, so oil is also oil and tanks and oxygen tanks. This is not a good combination, and this is also written. The no oil is also written. Use no oil is also written on every regulator. No, you cannot see this here, but if you have your regulator, look at it. Inside it says use no oil. So it is important not to use any oils with compressed oxygen. Okay, now let's talk about how to open and how to close a tank properly, because there is a right and a wrong way to do it. And now let me see if maybe it's better that I switch over to the other camera. Yes, this may be better. Okay, so we're gonna put away the medical oxygen tank. And so here you see we have much more space, and you can see this whole thing. So how to do this? So again, so it's similar as with the medical tank in that, so the important thing is to really, when you open it, to open it only half turn. Okay, but first of all, okay, don't open it without the regulator on. Okay, so sorry, rewind. First put the regulator on, and you see the regulator that goes onto an industrial tank is looks a little differently than on a medical tank. It's logical because they have different valves. So you screw it in like this, and later I will also include links to here to the tank and to the regulator. So if you're interested in buying them, you know where to. And so, okay, so this tank is empty, right? But if it was full, so first you want to set the regulator on off, okay? And when you open the tank, so there will be, first you open it and you make like maybe like a 1/6 of a turn, and at that point you will see the gauge here jump up, and the gauge will show you how much oxygen there is in the tank. Okay, so, and after that, after this has jumped up, and there will be, usually there's like a sound, like a pop, plop sound when that happens, when you open the tank the first time. And then you do like another bit of a turn, so that in total, you open it just half a turn. And that's enough. You don't need to like open it all the way to the max. Okay, and now somebody asked me, okay, is there something bad that could happen? And so, you know, maybe there is, I don't know exactly. All I can tell you is that I have been instructed by people who were teaching me ozone therapy in an official manner, you know, so all those courses, the ozone therapy courses, that how to open the tank, and they all told me, you know, just half a turn, that's it. You don't open it all the way to the max. So yeah, so this is how you properly open an oxygen tank. And then when you close it, you also want to close it not by exerting maximum force. So don't don't do it really tightly, but you know, just close it so it's closed and it's tight, but not super tight. Okay, and the reason for this is because inside the valve here there's a rubber ring, a rubber seal. And if you exert too much force on it, then it will be damaged over time, and then your tank starts to leak later on. Right? So to prevent this from happening, just don't exert too much force. Okay? So just, you know, just as if you were closing a jar, right? A jar with, you know, like a regular top, like a jar with marmalade or with pickles or something, right? You also don't need to, you know, make it super tight, but just close it, done. Okay, now let me check my overview. Yeah, how to open and close it, all right? So this is important because you don't want to damage it with time. Okay, how to use the regulator. Okay, so I already showed you how to put the regulator on. Now, some regulators, they may actually require that you use a wrench, some industrial regulators. With medical regulators, with medical tanks, this is not necessary, but some industrial regulators, you will have to take a wrench to make it really tight. Others, you may also need an extra tape. So there's like extra, like a plumber's tape to make it sufficiently tight and sufficiently so it doesn't leak. So this is the difference between industrial and medical tanks. Another thing is that. So okay, so how to open and close a regulator. So most regulators, the way they work is that basically here you see you turn here this part, and then you set the flow. And okay, so what is important that when you use ozone therapy, you need pediatric or so-called low flow regulators. So those are regulators which are able to produce super low flows of like 1/32, 1/16, and 1/8 of a liter per minute. So this is important. And so when you buy your tank, let's say you buy it at Airgas or some welding shop, then make sure that you buy the regulator separately, because the regulator that you will be offered at those welding shops, they will not be pediatric or low flow regulators, so you need to buy them separately. And you can buy them either PromoLife, Simply O3, Longevity, or Amazon. And okay, so the way to handle a regulator, there's also a correct and an incorrect way. So the regulator is will be under pressure when you use it with the oxygen tank. And that pressure, if it's not purged regularly, will also damage the regulator, and the regulator can start to leak. And because there are also rubber seals inside the regulator. So if you don't regularly purge the pressure will damage the regulator. So how do you do this? How do you purge the pressure? Let me see if I can zoom in here. So okay, so let's say that your tank is open, okay, and at this point the gauge would have been up, so would be showing somewhere in the green zone and showing you that there is oxygen in the tank. Okay, and then you have used your oxygen for some insufflation or to make drinking ozonated water or whatever. And after you're done, you close the regulator. Okay, so you would set it to off here in this case. Okay, so it would be closed. Okay, but so the regulator is still closed, but the valve is open. So that means that there is pressure inside the regulator, and you can tell because the valve is not on zero, but it's up. So the way to do this, to release the pressure, what you do, you first close the tank. Again, you're not exerting too much force, so you're closing the valve here, and then you open the regulator all the way up. Sorry, you open it all the way up to the maximum flow. In this case, here it's 2 liters per minute. This is the maximum flow for this regulator. Other pediatric regulators have maximum flows of 4 liters per minute. And when that happens, you will hear like a hissing sound. This is the sound of the oxygen coming out of the tubing and out of the regulator at a high speed. And during the hissing, you will see the gauge here go down to 0 into the red zone. And then when the gauge is all the way down, that means you have purged the pressure from the regulator, and then you can put it back onto off or 0, and it's done. So you have purged the regulator, and you have closed the valve, you have purged the regulator, and then you have closed the regulator. So this is important that you do this after each ozone session. Now, you don't need to do this immediately after you have finished with your treatment, but when you're done with ozone for the day, then you should purge the regulator. So you should not leave the regulator under pressure overnight or for several days. But if you leave it like for half an hour or an hour, that's fine. Just not longer than that. All right, so what's the next? How to use the regulator, we covered that. What can you use industrial oxygen for? Okay, so now I can switch again to my other camera. All right, so what can you use industrial oxygen for? So, all right, so again, there will be different opinions. Those people who say that, okay, there's no difference between industrial and medical oxygen, those people, they do really anything and everything with their industrial tanks. So they even use it for injections, even for DIVs and so forth. I personally would not do this. Since I have learned from one of our group members that one of their industrial oxygen tanks tested below 99%, I personally would not do any type of injections with industrial oxygen. But this is up to you guys. I personally would not do it. What industrial oxygen is safe for sure, this is anything that does not include any type of injections. So any insufflation, water, doing ozone saunas, any other of the topical applications like cupping, body bags, all the insufflations like ear, rectal insufflations, vaginal insufflations, even nasal insufflations, right? It doesn't matter if there's some other gas in it, because we also constantly breathe in gas, air, which is 80% nitrogen. So whatever gas you will inject there, it will also come out, most of it right away. So yeah, any type of insufflations, again, anything that is non-invasive is perfectly fine to be used with industrial oxygen. All right, now let me see if anyone has questions. Okay, people telling me sound was okay. Great. So I think I covered all of it, most important parts. Okay, there's something weird is happening here. I can't. Okay. Yeah, I think I covered the most important things. So much to industrial oxygen. Okay, one other thing. Okay, when you buy industrial oxygen, so what you don't want to do, you don't want to talk with the staff of Airgas or your welding shop. You don't want to engage them in a conversation about ozone therapy or about any type of therapy, okay? So you need to, when you buy industrial oxygen that you want to use for ozone therapy at home, don't tell them that, be smart about it, okay? So don't ask them, hey, will I be able to shoot ozone up my bum when I use industrial oxygen? Because when they catch a whiff of the fact that you want to use this type of oxygen for medical purposes, they most likely won't sell it to you. Okay, so yeah, just be smart about it. They should not tell you. They should not ask you what you need the oxygen for, okay, because you don't need to provide them any specific information. So oxygen is freely available. You don't need a special license, you don't need a special justification to be able to buy oxygen. So far, but as things are going, maybe they will also pass a law that will maybe prohibit this, but so far it's not against the law to buy industrial oxygen. So yeah, so don't engage the staff, the welding shop, don't ask them, I want to have low flows of oxygen for ozone therapy, what type of regulator do I need for this? No. So the way to go about this is you need to know beforehand, before you go to that shop, what you want. So be clear about it. Do your research and learn how big of a bottle you want, what type of oxygen bottle exactly, and what you need to go with it. All right, so just go in there and tell them, I want this and that. Thank you. Where can I pay? Here's my credit card. Thank you. Goodbye. Okay. Do not engage them. Do not use them as somehow some consultants on ozone therapy. They won't be able to tell you, and if they understand that you're going to use this for medical purposes, they may not sell it to you. Okay, so in general, like a 20 cubic feet bottle of a 20 cubic feet industrial oxygen bottle, this is a pretty good size. And let's say if you used the oxygen on a daily basis for various insufflations, water and so forth, it probably would last you 2 months, you know, again, depending how often you would use it, you know, per application, how often per day, per week, and so forth. But probably like 2 months, possibly longer. So 20 cubic feet is a pretty good size, I think. And it's also, you can also handle it. You can easily carry it yourself. If it gets bigger, then it becomes a little more difficult to transport. So yeah, I think this is it. That's all I got, guys. And so yeah, again, subscribe to my newsletter because the purge is on. They want complete conformity. They're purging everything and anyone that is somehow a threat to the establishment. So yeah. thepowerofozone.com/news, type in your name, type in your email address, and you'll be subscribed. So thank you very much for watching. See you in the next live stream. Bye bye.